Welcome to the Average Nobody's Podcast, number 96 for September 8th. I always fuck that up. 2020. Today's a very special episode. We have some guests with us. We're going to go around the table here, introduce who you are, where you're from, and what you do. Who is your daddy and what does he do? First, we'll start with Chad.
My daddy is Dallas. He has no podcasts, and I'm just here. Hi, I'm Chad Michaelinas. I'm from Respawn Aim Fire, an Affable Idiots podcast where we talk about all sorts of fun stuff. I also love movies. I went and saw Tenet and risked my life, and it was 100% worth it.
Dallas?
My children say Daddy is a real sex machine.
Oh, no! No!
Yeah, I'm Dallas. I'm just a guest. Never a host, always a guest.
That's so
But Dallas,
gross.
Yes.
I will do this on every podcast I'm on with you.
I appreciate it, Matt.
What do? You do something amazing that not all of us do.
Sex?
Maybe. I don't know that about you, but you do something else.
Apparently, I'm a very average video game photographer.
This man takes the most amazing photo mode photos that I've ever seen.
Thanks, man.
And he puts in the work, too. He's got like thousands and thousands of photos in each game.
My portfolio is huge.
So, yeah, he puts in the work.
Legit.
Holden, what about you?
I am also on Respawn Aim Fire, an Affable Idiots production. I'm on that show as a pretty regular guest every week.
Wonderful. Well, welcome, guys. First time. We don't really have guests a lot on the Average Nobodies, but this is a special one because, as Chad said, we all saw Tenet recently. We risked our lives and went out into the world and saw Tenet.
I saved Holden's life.
I was going to say, yeah, I want to give a special shout out to Dallas. I got to the movie theater, which is like a 30-minute drive from where I am, and I didn't have a mask. I forgot to bring a mask.
Holden, you dumb bitch.
Yeah, so I just coughed over everyone as I walked in the theater. No, I'm kidding. I called Dallas and I'm like, Dallas, you're almost here. Do you happen to have an extra mask? And he did. And I got to say, it was the nicest mask I've ever worn.
It was very nice.
It was like Polar Tech and warm. Like, it was incredible.
Is that what you want in Rhode Island right now? A warm mask?
No.
It was
You're sweating.
not right now. I was sweating like crazy, but in the winter,
It'll be nice.
It's going to get to that
It'll
pretty
be very
soon,
nice.
where we're going to need
Yeah,
warm masks.
exactly.
We got to get ahead of it. We got to get ahead of that.
It's all right. After the election, the virus is going to go away.
That's
you don't need
right.
a mask.
Exactly. That's true. That is true.
Hopefully it doesn't get cold before that.
So, Chad, I don't know what you can explain your experience in a second, but for the three of us, for Holden and Dallas and myself, we went and there was. I mean, how many people were with us in that theater, the IMAX theater? Like maybe 20 total, like including us, maybe.
which is hilarious. Yeah. Buying the tickets, it kept saying, nope, no seats there. Nope, you can't get a seat there. That one's taken. So I'm like, man, how many people are going to be there? No, yeah, it was like 20 people.
Nobody. So it was a pretty guy. I felt at ease. Like, I wore the mask going in. I sat down. I ate my popcorn. I took the mask off, obviously. But I felt pretty at ease. There was nobody in the mall. And I made sure not to, like, really touch anything in and out. So
I actually really like it the way it is right now.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to say it, but
I mean, it's not
the
bad.
movie-going experience was great.
Yeah, having the IMAX theater to ourselves is not a bad look.
For sure.
All right, let's get into it. So we saw Tenet. Oh, Chad, sorry. What was your experience like going? I know we talked about it.
Mine was not too bad. I tried to keep it as like I talked to you the night before, trying to figure out like, do I go see it? Are these the right precautions to take? And it was pretty good. We saw it in a large format theater as well. There was like 20 people there. They closed off every other row, and you had to keep 3 seats between you and the other parties, and it wasn't bad. There was one guy, literally one guy, way up in the rafters, just went once during the movie, and you could hear a couple go, "If I get coronavirus, I swear to God." But that was the only sound anyone made.
I didn't even. It was so loud in our theater. Like I don't. I mean, maybe it was just because I haven't been to a movie in a while, but it was particularly loud that night. Last night when we saw it. Yeah. So we saw Tenet. This is going to be spoilery as hell. We're talking about everything and anything. I think really the four of us getting together is good because I think we have to just try and make sense of what we saw.
Yeah.
I agree.
Also, I don't think you could talk about this movie in any, like, to offer a review of this movie without doing spoilers. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, that is also true. So
just watch a trailer. That's
challenge rejected.
So Tenet, yes. Tenet. It's directed by Christopher Nolan, also written by Christopher Nolan. Music was done by, and this was interesting to me because I was very curious, because usually Holden and I were talking when we got out of the movie. Hans Zimmer usually does Nolan scores. This wasn't. This was a fella named Ludwig Göransson. I had to look that up how to pronounce. He did the score for Venom, Black Panther, The Mandalorian, season 1 and 2, Creed 2, nice. New Girl, and Patriot Act, and a few others as well. But that was just
I could tell.
And
I could hear hints of Zooey Deschanel in there. Like,
it's
that sounds like New Girl.
And this was the first movie since The Prestige, the Prestige, that was not scored by Hans Zimmer, but it was still great, and so that's why I wanted to look it up. That was one of the first things that I saw. Like if Holden, yeah.
Hans is doing Dune next, which makes me more excited for Dune.
Yeah. Dude, that looked awesome.
How about the preview for Dune? Did you guys see the preview for Dune?
The preview of the preview for Dune?
Yes.
Yeah, the preview for preview was great. No, legitimately, was actually one of the better previews of a preview. Because I didn't feel like I was cheated out of anything. I'm like, I actually saw some really cool looking footage in that preview of the preview. Trailer comes out tomorrow. Very excited.
The cinematographer for this film was Hoyte van Hoytema. That doesn't sound like a real name, but it is.
It doesn't at all.
It's not. I promise that is the name. He did Ad Astra, Dunkirk, Interstellar, and the James Bond movie Spectre.
That name sounds like. I'm sorry to interrupt, just that name sounds like Bart Simpson was asked, like, who is the 32nd president? He's like, I don't know, Hoity, like something or other.
It's because his first name and his last name starts with his first name is in his last name, so it just sounds like.
Hoity Van Hoytema.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I looked it up too on how to pronounce it because I can't pronounce words worth of shit, but that's how you say it. And he did the cinematography for the movie. It starred John David Washington, which is Denzel Washington's son. He was fantastic as the protagonist. That's his character name. Robert Pattinson was Neil, and Elizabeth Debicki as Kat. She's super familiar to me. Do you guys know other things that she was in?
No.
I don't either. I should look that up maybe. All right, so I'm going to read the synopsis here, and I want you guys to tell me.
Well, real quick, did you know who the villain's from?
No.
Did you know?
What is he from?
So he plays.
That's Kenneth Branagh, isn't it?
He's in Dunkirk. I know that.
He's Kenneth Branagh.
Yes.
Isn't it? Who directed Thor?
He's Gildry Lockhart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it?
In Harry Potter.
Yeah.
He
Gilderoy
directed
Lockhart.
Thor, Chad?
Yeah, he directed the first
Really?
Thor movie.
He also
Okay.
directed
I didn't know
Hamlet as well, I think, as well. He's done some pretty. He's a pretty good director.
He was a pretty good villain in this movie. Liked it.
Hell yeah. He's badass.
So I'm going to read the synopsis, and let's discuss. We'll start here. Is this a good description of what we saw? Armed with only one word, Tenet, and fighting for the survival of the entire world, a protagonist journeys through a twilight world of international espionage on a mission that will unfold in something beyond real time.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Expound.
What the fuck does Twilight World mean?
Well,
Well, that was the thing that he would say to people, like, "Oh, we live in a twilight world." I thought that was like a precursor.
That's right. Okay.
I thought that's kind of like a precursor, like, like us at the high up in the military use this to kind of know we can share information, kind of thing, or something along those lines. I thought Tenet was like separate from that, but there's so much I'm confused about the movie still. So I'll just take the description's word for it.
So
sure.
let's go around. We'll start off like, did you guys enjoy this movie or not? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Did you have fun with it, Chad?
I will start with a resounding hell yeah, it was badass.
It was.
I enjoyed this movie a lot. I think coming out of it, this has hurt my brain more than any other Christopher Nolan movie, which was wonderful. The whole time I was sitting there just like intently staring at the screen with my eyes just going like, don't explode, don't explode. And then 2/3 of the way through the movie, when you finally realize what's happening in the red and blue room, where they're with the time style, that's when I was like, oh fuck, I get it. I know what's going on. This is insane. I need to see the rest of the movie again before I see the end of the movie. Like I have to go back and watch the beginning before I see the end again. I loved it a ton. It was great.
I felt the same way. I loved it. I had a lot of fun with it. It was super intense, and I think I texted you this right after. I was like, by the end of it, I understood what was going on and what happened, but at no point during the movie did I understand what was happening, which is an interesting place to be at the end of that movie. What about you, Dallas?
Yeah, I loved it. I think I've discussed with you guys before that I have this issue while watching things, trying to figure out what's going to happen next all the time. So that movie was like a huge torture for me, just the whole time. I'm like, wait, hold on. I think I know what's going on. Then I'm like, nah, you have no fucking idea. Hold on. Let's watch a little bit more. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was, I think if I got a lot of Dunkirk feelings. Like the last movie, I told you guys, the last movie I went to go see that I felt that way after leaving was Blade Runner. But I think more Dunkirk intensity mixed into that. So yeah, I love those 3 movies, or those other 2 movies. So yeah, this was up to par with all that stuff. I loved it.
Holden?
We all need to let Dallas know once again that he needs to watch Inception because he hasn't seen Inception.
You haven't watched Inception?
I haven't seen it.
Oh my
I tried
God.
to watch a little bit of it today, but I had the kid. I was with the kids, so I was like, I gotta pay a little more attention to the kids than this movie. So
Yeah.
It's not nearly as confusing as Tenet is, so that's a good thing. I really liked Tenet a lot. I saw it again today. I'm still confused as to what is happening in the movie sometimes. I still have questions, but I kind of just like, this is a movie you just roll with. And I kind of think it's supposed to kind of feel out of reach in a lot of ways. Like, there's a very specific line early on, which is, don't think about it, just feel. And it's just like, just enjoy this movie. You're going to see some really cool stuff that you could only see in a movie about reversing time. Like that fight scene where, spoiler alert, we already said spoiler alert, but where the protagonist is facing against his future self in reverse.
That was so
and you
cool.
see that. Never seen anything
While
like
his
that.
future self is right down the hallway fighting the other.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man?
Bananas.
It's really, really cool. So I can't say I've ever seen a movie like it. It's such an awesome viewing experience that I'm willing to say, you know what? The confusion is just kind of part of the experience.
Yep.
Like, that's what the protagonist is feeling through most of the movie, is that kind of confusion, not understanding what's going on. That's just part of the experience, and I'm totally down with it. I liked it a lot. It was fantastic, and it makes me more excited for Nolan's next films as well. Like, he can continually top himself in terms of making these spectacle movies that you couldn't expect and continuously being original. You just have to have respect for that. It's really impressive.
We were talking, and I was telling Lindy about this as well. It's not often that you get to go to the theater, see a movie that is completely original, that doesn't come from anything else, that is not, you know what I mean, that is not a sequel, that is not a prequel, that is not a spiritual successor, or a remake. So this is like those Nolan movies, besides Batman, which are still like original ideas, it's a singular experience, and it's really cool to see that. There's only a few directors that do that kind of, like, solely do that kind of work, which I thought was very cool. It wasn't based in history, obviously, or maybe not. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I create Tenet. Maybe I go to the future. Maybe the CIA recruits me, and I swallow that silver pill, thinking I'm going to kill myself, and I wake up, and who knows?
To be fair, Tenet is like a trilogy already. There's a prequel, an original movie, and a sequel, like all wrapped into one movie.
That is true. and having said all that, praising Christopher Nolan, I also think that he was sitting I picture him at a typewriter, him saying, you know what? Yep. His future self is going to come back. They're going to get into a fight. And yeah, that's right. Fuck these people that are paying tickets to see this movie, because we're just going to we're going to throw everything at them. Like you said, Holden, I don't think you're really supposed to understand everything as it comes to you. That would be impossible. It would just be impossible, especially with the third act and everything that was going on with that. There's some wild stuff. Some interesting notes here. This movie contained no green screen shots at all. 0.
Dope.
Even the forward and backwards scenes, Christopher Nolan chose to shoot those scenes, everything twice. Forwards and backwards.
Interesting. Okay.
I heard that he said that his film actually contains fewer VFX shots than most rom-coms.
So you are correct. It only has 280 VFX shots, less than most romantic comedies. This number is also low for his other films. Dark Knight had 650, Dark Knight Rises 450, Inception around 500, and Dunkirk around 429, which is insane.
I wonder if that's what gives him the license to keep making original movies, because it probably means well, maybe this isn't true, but maybe the movies are cheaper because they don't have to spend as much time in post-production editing stuff. I'm sure some of the sets they make, like, not, I won't spoil something, but there's a certain scene in Inception that obviously requires like a huge like set to be made. Like, I'm sure there's stuff like that, but the video effects stuff is expensive.
The only thing that saves him is that everybody shoots digitally now. If he was shooting film, he would because he's shooting everything twice, and he's having his actors. I was reading something where he had the actors learn how to do the fight choreography in reverse. They weren't just reversing the choreography; they were doing that in reverse, and they were making the actors speak in reverse.
Speak backwards.
Some people were speaking reverse with accents that aren't their normal accents as well, which is a bananas thought to have.
Well, you have to, because there are so many scenes where you see both forward and reverse people at the same time, and one of them's got to be doing something backwards.
Right.
Because you can't just reverse the whole film.
Yeah.
All that, though, just the planning on Christopher Nolan's end of directing all this and planning the shots, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's crazy.
That's the thing that was blowing my mind the most, was going through this movie and just... Because I've shot a few short movies. One was 30 seconds, another was 2 minutes, another was 7 minutes. And to figure out the shooting schedule for those movies, I wanted to die. Now I'm looking at this movie, and you see, like, the others. I'm like, I can't even imagine what that looked like. Like, them trying to block shots.
How do we track... Is he wearing a mask in this shot? Is he not wearing a mask in this shot?
Right. It was so confusing. And, like, I don't even know, honestly, if they got something, if there was a huge plot hole in one of it, I don't think I'd even notice. I don't think I would have even noticed. Like, it just would have been like, so, all right. So so we said it's going to be a spoilery. Let's dive right in. Let's start picking out some of our favorite, like, kind of like set pieces from the whole thing. I'll start off with, and I think this is going to go for everybody, this scene, but when they're on the highway chase, and you see the protagonist, his future self or past self, however you want to determine it, like, pull up in the Audi's flipped over on the highway, and then you come to find later that was his car that he came. But, like, the scene where he's riding in reverse and he becomes the facilitator for the algorithm to get bounced off the hood of the car to the villain, which is like a bananas like whole thing. And then later on you see that it's the protagonist in the car. You see him, they lock eyes. You don't really see that the first time around, but you see it the second time around. So anyway, I don't know. Do any of you guys have something from there? Do you want to pull out?
I loved it, and I love that it was all going batshit crazy. First of all, that whole scene, I was trying to figure out, like, okay, that car is going in reverse down the highway. So if it were, that means it's going forward in the other time, or is it going reverse in backwards time? Or I was trying to figure all that out the whole time.
That's when you get fucked.
Yeah.
That's when your mind just gets fucked.
Also, but I loved, like, the subtlety in which, like, if you miss anything, like, if you miss the 12 frames in which you see him toss the orange suitcase across the hood while he throws the algorithm into the car to the other him. Yeah. And it's like, but that all you see is just bounce, bounce, bounce. That's it.
And also, that's
the information you had to gather.
If you miss the villain noticing it,
yes,
when he in the backwards portion, he knows that he tried to screw him over after he lied to him in the present, and then he goes and finds him, sets the car on, like, all that little stuff. If you miss that little stuff, it's just, it would probably almost make even less sense. Yeah. Than you already think it does. You're like, wait a second. So.
That scene in the car too, where Kenneth Branagh like lights the stream of oil or whatever it was going to his car. I totally forgotten about there's like an off like line at the beginning, like the reverse of heat distribution or something like that, or he just
making it.
Yes, it makes a coal. I'm like, I totally forgot about it. So when it happened, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. What a great little like build up to that moment where you're like, he's dead. There's no way he's getting out of this. And again, just those small little details that totally matter in this universe. That was super awesome.
Hell yeah.
So Kenneth how do you say the last name? Branagh. So he gets introduced a little bit towards the in Act 1, but the whole thing is you have the protagonist. He's a CIA operative. And then he's going. So just like I'm saying this out loud because I want you guys to correct me. I'm trying to figure out where the storyline goes. So you have the protagonist. He's on some secret mission in Oslo, right? at the Oslo Opera House.
At the opera.
The
yeah.
opera. He's extracting someone. They have that secret code word. He gets captured. He takes what is supposed to be like a suicide pill to kill himself so he wouldn't give up any of his teammates, his crew. He wakes up.
And he's actually there to get a piece of the algorithm, right? He doesn't know it.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was a piece of the algorithm
person's
there.
bag at coat check had the algorithm
Right.
in it.
Right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. It was like the odd, little shaped thing. Anyway, he makes it out and he gets captured and he takes the pill and then he wakes up and this guy tells him about Tenet and that's what launches him into this world, looking for.
After they pulled out all his teeth.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was such a weird line. Oh, and we reconstructed your mouth. Like, you're just gonna just some plot convenience, whatever. That was fun. I didn't bother me. It was just funny.
Test though.
Yeah.
Oh my
We're just gonna test you to see. We're gonna pull out every single fucking tooth you have just to see if you'll eat this
Oh my
pill.
God. Man, that CIA stuff is so badass though. Like I love when they go heavy-handed with that kind of stuff in movies and things, and this is this super secret. I mean, I'm sure it does exist to an extent, but I'm sure there's not someone like the protagonist running around right now doing what we saw in the movie. But it's still, I love when it's heavy-handed like that, and it's this shit is badass. It's like James Bond stuff, that's cool shit. So then now he meets up with Robert Pattinson's character Neil, who has the ending. I'm jumping all around, but the end with them, that's a whole
Time is all at once. It's fine.
It's yeah, and what I'm trying to do is get to the next point of the relationship with the villain and his wife. The whole thing with that is that she values art, correct? And she sold,
she's like an appraiser.
right? So she sold a fake piece to her husband, which he uses to hold over her head. Right?
I think what happened was he bought the piece of art, had her appraise it, and she appraised it as it being real, but it's actually a fraud.
Right.
So I think her livelihood basically and the wealth of the painting is she's being blackmailed.
If anyone ever
for
found out that she
Right.
appraised a fake as a real painting, she would never get work again.
Right.
She would completely lose her life.
Right, and then she wouldn't be able to see it. She'd prison time. They said prison time. She wouldn't be able to see her son and all that.
Right.
I'm just surprised he wasn't more reasonable about it. Like, hey, honey, everyone makes mistakes. It's fine.
Yeah, right.
I didn't even like it. The painting's not even that good.
Yeah. He seemed like a reasonable person otherwise. It just seems weird in that one thing he would be a dick.
When the protagonist when he first finally convinces Kat to introduce himself to her husband at the party, and he goes, "There's a walled garden down the road, and we're gonna take you there. We're gonna slit your throat. We're gonna slit your throat. We're gonna cut your balls off.
that was
and
gross.
we're gonna shove them in your throat and watch you as you try to dislodge your own balls from your throat as you're choking." That was the most. I was like, "Oh, fuck! This guy is a fucking not to be trifled with, not at all."
Here's the thing with that line. There's no way he was just at his computer ready and I was just he'll do this. He clearly had to think of that and be like, what's the most fucked up thing I could have him do? And he's writes down 10 ideas of what this could be. Hey, brother, what do you think of these ideas? These fucked up enough?
Here's a flip chart. Bow body. Bow body.
The first piece stand for balls.
Balls on mouth.
Well, it's that they brainstormed it, or that walled garden has seen some shit and they have done it before there. That place is just a place where people get balls shoved down their throat, literally.
Possibly.
I ruined.
That took
I
place
wanna
in
call
Italy,
out
right?
the-
You never know about those crazy mafia guys.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It looked like it was the Mafia.
I want to call out the
code.
scene.
Go ahead.
The scene before, that led them to figuring out it was him as the arms dealer, where they introduced the concept of the time thing, where he learns about Tenet from Robert Pattinson, or from who does he learn it from?
Just
He
that
learns it from
dude.
that scientist, that woman.
Yes,
That's right, that
right,
woman.
right.
Oh,
yes,
that.
yes,
The
yes,
hand
yes.
gesture.
I thought you were saying the
But
phrase.
then they get to the place where she shows them the bullets that have the reverse intrinsic or the reverse energy.
Entropy.
I forget what they call it. Entropy, reverse. I've got intrinsic energy from Avengers stuck in my head. But yeah, that scene I feel did a really good job of introducing us to that concept, where he's looking at the wall with the bullets, and she's like, "Fire it," and he pulls the trigger, and jumps back into the gun, and then he's like, wait a minute, and she picks up the bullet off the table, and he's like, wait a minute, and she's like, it wouldn't have come off the table had you not put your hand over it. Like, you still had the intent. Like, you had to have dropped it going backwards. Anyway, it did a really good job of kind of introducing that concept, even though I can't repeat it, which means obviously I didn't learn it that well.
No, I know, but I know what
No,
you mean.
you nailed it. That's exactly what it was. Yeah. And it's cool too that you can't tell what objects are or not. So it's like a point in the reverse fighting scene at the Freeport where the protagonist goes to reach for the gun as if he's really trying to grab it, but it doesn't come to him because that object doesn't have the reverse entropy. Like they're all again like cool details like that.
Right.
Yeah.
How can you tell just how it behaves?
Think one of them kicks it away, but it actually, instead of kicking it away, like kicks it to himself.
Yes.
Like the gun comes to his foot.
Yep.
But in the first scene, when you first see it happen, it actually goes like it's on his foot, and then it goes sliding away, and you're like, something's up here. This is fucked up.
Yeah.
And all of that that whole scene introduces us to the concept of the fact that the future is trying to cause World War III in the past by sending back reverse
entropy
nuclear missiles into the past somehow.
Right.
Like that's fucking bonkers.
Yeah, it's a crazy concept.
crazy.
They fucked up their thing so bad that they're sending back missiles to end the world before it gets that bad.
Yeah.
It's bananas.
I think my favorite scene might have been that first fight scene when he's having dinner with the wife, and they send in the bodyguards to fuck him up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He just goes through the kitchen and he just kicks everybody's ass, dude. It's just that set the tone for that movie for me. I was like, yes.
And they're parked outside, and the driver's like, he wants you to see him walk out.
And he said something to her like he gave her the phone, and she's like, I don't think I'll be receiving your call. He's like, trust me, you will. And he just gets up, he starts walking through the kitchen, just beats everybody's ass, dude. It was so funny.
That was, and then as soon as he steps outside the driver like starts the car and takes off.
Yeah.
That was great. He's a badass, man.
He is.
John, what did I say? What's his name? John David Washington. He is really good with fight choreography. Like all of it was very convincing. Like all of it was very convincing and very good and very physical. Like, he's just good. I think it's just like it came to him natural. I mean, I'm sure he does a lot of practice with it, and I'm sure there was a lot that went into the choreography. But I mean, he looked very good, and he looked like he did a lot of his own stunts. Like walking through the kitchen when he was like grabbing the plates and like throwing them off the table and then start like beating the guy, just like going at him. Like that was awesome.
It was.
Nolan does a really good job at like build these action scenes that build tension. And there's a scene in this that reminds me of scenes from Inception and The Dark Knight. I just watched The Dark Knight today, and it reminds me of scenes kind of like when Batman goes over to, I think it's Tokyo, and he has to break that guy out of the building, right? It's like this like heist moment. So in Tenet, it reminded me of that when they go into the airport and they break into that area where all the stuff is, the expensive shit is kept tax-free, which is a bananas thing. I don't know if that's a real thing or not. It sounds like it would be for super rich people.
I actually want to look it up now because I thought that sounded really cool too.
Freeport. So anyway, they're in there, and
Pretty sure it's real.
Robert Pattinson does
It sounds real, yeah.
He does like he scopes it out. He goes in with a guy. It has this special gas that sucks the oxygen out of the room. And I'm like, oh shit is about to go down. And so they're in there, and like them just like methodically like moving through the rooms, knowing exactly like we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but they have the plan, and I love that shit, and that was awesome. And for the protagonist character to come through the turnstile and attack him, and at the same time his character be running out away from Robert Pattinson, that was just such a cool moment. Like something that wasn't expected. Like that was the thing that went wrong for them. Everything else they did was perfect. The guy hijacked the plane, he dumps the gold, he crashes it into the thing. Everything was going perfectly.
Right.
And then
Except for they broke the key off.
Right, yeah. Well, right, yeah. That was the only thing that went bad for them, which is wild. They were like holding their anyway. And you could see them like walking in, and they're doing like the deep breaths, trying to get their lungs ready to hold the breath. And Robert Pattinson looks at the guy and he's like, "You said 10 seconds, right?" And the guy fucking books it out the door. That was awesome. That was really good.
They weren't suspicious at
into
all.
The center with the time style.
What'd you say?
What?
They weren't suspicious at all that they weren't running for the door as well. Like they just allowed themselves to suffocate in that room.
I think they played it up good enough where like they were like, okay, this dude is a worm. Like the first thing the other thing he says to them before when Robert Pattinson first goes in there, when Neil goes in there, he's like, we have no priorities above your property. We're just like, we don't give a fuck about anybody, not even you. Like, your property comes above you.
But also no cameras that were like, hey, those guys are sneaking into other rooms and going into like nothing. Like, I don't know. That was a little weird.
See,
but again, I was totally fine with that.
I think those are the type of places though that don't have security systems inside those rooms, because that's some weird shit where like billionaires and trillionaires are not going to want their shit on video, or they're not going to want people seeing what they're doing in there. It's the whole thing.
Their Illuminati conversations cannot be revealed at any cost.
It's the same thing in The Sopranos, why Junior Soprano takes all his meetings at his doctor's office.
Right.
You know, there's no security cameras in there. They can do whatever they want.
So there's a Geneva Freeport on that subject really quickly. Doesn't say that it like bypasses customs and that kind of stuff, but the Geneva Freeport has like $100 billion worth of art within it.
Okay.
Which is insane.
It's not that it bypasses customs. It's just that they haven't gone through customs yet.
Well,
they hold it
but
there,
you
so
can.
they don't have to go through.
Yeah,
customs.
so it kind of so it does kind of bypass.
But if you
customs because,
decide, you're like, oh man, somebody brought this piece of art, and you know what? I think I will buy that, and you're going to import it. Then it does have to go through customs.
Right.
And you have to
but for all of that, it's bypassing that process because it just goes right from the plane inside. So in a way, it is. But yeah, once you buy it.
When they got to the center room there, and they were like trying to figure out whatever it is that they're looking for, I didn't realize the time style was their thing, and they got to the next scene, and they're like, oh man. That was pretty wild, right? But they were like, we did it.
Me too.
And I was like, no, you fucking didn't.
Yeah,
you got there. You almost... Because I thought whatever was in the time style was what they were looking for. I was like, you didn't even get to the thing.
Right.
You did all that for nothing.
So how does... And I guess I'm like... I understand that the turnstile, that turnstile is what sends things in reverse, right? And what sends things forward.
Right.
So...
Through some kind of radiation.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. So there's some kind of algorithm that enacts this, like, or works with this radiation, and is what does the whole thing. So there's...
Did they really explain that? Like, I don't even...
Not really.
They didn't.
I kind of feel like it was...
They didn't explain it, and they also didn't explain their time travel. Like, they purposely stayed away from all of that, just so like you could suspend your disbelief a little bit more. Like, they mentioned the whole grandfather paradox.
Yeah, right.
Like, you can't go back and kill your grandfather because whatever's happened has happened, and you're just going to keep continuing that timeline. And then they were just like, cool, that's all we're going to say, and we're going to back off so we don't get ourselves in trouble.
I don't consider it time travel. I think I consider it, like, more of a parallel time. Like, I don't want to say parallel universe, but it's just...
It's not even parallel.
Well, what?
It's like...
Well, it takes place...
It's not even parallel. It's like, it's in the same...
Right, that's what I mean. It takes place at the same time, so... You know, one's going this way, one's going that way. You know, but that's why I say.
Well, not only does it take place at the same time, but it takes
in
place
the same universe. So I don't want to say parallel universe either.
Well, I mean, it takes place in the same time in both ways throughout history. Right? I mean, because it stretches all the way out to the future and it stretches into the past. So it's happening everywhere on both sides. So anyway,
it's also not.
Oh, go ahead, hold me.
It's not really time travel though, because like I don't know. This for me. I think time travel. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go from one time to another time. Whereas this is more just. It's like a rewind button or a forward button, and kind of going back and forth.
Sure.
But it's not even that because you're not going back and changing things. You are like
you're still
going
there.
forward in time in reverse.
Right.
Aaron Taylor Johnson's character said it whenever the protagonist was like, "Man, I wanted to be on the first wave," and he's like, "You don't understand. You're thinking of time linearly.
Yeah.
Like there was no first wave.
Right.
Like, this is all happening at the same
thing,
time,
right.
even though it's happening afterwards."
But it's almost like I don't want to say parallel universe.
We're trying to explain it in linear terms, and it's not a linear concept.
Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson would yell at us.
But they do say it is it's inversing it. It's reversing it. It's going.
Well, it's reversing
backwards
the action.
It's reversing your entropy. It's not reversing time.
Right.
I didn't say it was reversing time. I'm saying it's like it. Okay, all right, fine. Yeah.
Well,
all right,
but wait, isn't it? What is the deal with Kat's wound? Isn't that the reason why they did it? Because they want to reverse the action of what happened.
I think the healing could only happen in the same entropy that she.
Oh, right, because she got it.
She had the
right. The bullet got pulled through her. Right. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, that's starting to click now. That was a wild scene too. So I was just trying to think. We know of 3 turnstiles, right? It's the one where Kat gets shot. It's the one with the glass. Well, they all have glass in the middle, but like that one. Then there's the one in the final, like kind of like big battle scene that's like in the center of like that town. And then there's the one at the Freeport. That's the 3 we know of, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I mention a theory that I've seen floated around?
Do it.
That Neil is Max.
Neil is Max.
Yeah.
The son.
Right.
That's interesting. How is
I was lost on character names. Which one's Neil and which
Neil
one's
is-
Max?
Neil's Robert Pattinson.
And Max is the son of
Cat?
the villain and Kate.
So-
Oh.
One reason why they're saying that it might be possible is because I guess his name is Maximilian, and the last 4 letters of his name backwards is Neil.
Oh, that's a very Nolan thing to do.
Yeah, and
But how would that work?
well, technically he would have to jump or whatever quite a lot. You know, you'd have to skip a bunch of years to get back, but technically he's going back on the time anyways. Like, he's always been, you know, Neil's character has always been in the future anyways, technically, so he's coming back through to go back to where Max was, I guess. Max as a child.
Right.
And he's been a part of this for a while too. So like it would make sense that like he met what's his name, the protagonist in the future, and then he started going backwards from there to kind of, because the whole like pincer movement and like kind of coming from both directions.
Well, that's what
so
they were
he
saying.
kind of and
The
then circles
pincer
back again.
of the movie itself is set with that too, because you
Yeah.
get Max at one end and you get Neil at the other end, and it's going back. A couple other things they mentioned. You know, this might be trivial stuff, but the hair coloring of Robert Pattinson, he dyed his hair for the movie to match that of Max's. Why would he do that if it wasn't supposed to be implied? The other thing was the care he gave to Kate. You know, someone he didn't really know, someone that the protagonist had more of a connection to, but he was there by her side taking care of her. You know, they never mentioned that he was like a medic or anything like that, but he was there to make sure they did what she needed to get done to get through to survive. I think there was one other thing that they mentioned. Oh, basically the relationship at the end that they say that the protagonist might have realized. That's why he went back after Neil told him not to, or asked him if he was going to go back to see Kate, and he's like, no. But then after Neil kind of told him about their friendship, how long they've known each other, that at the end of the movie when he goes back and kills the arms dealer,
He unlocks
the woman in front of the school where Max and Kate are. You know, they were saying that was implying that, you know, it was him going back to look after Max and his mother to make sure that all happens again, because that's what keeps happening, I guess. I don't know. It's just
I have to look up some of those theories because I haven't really looked at anything like that. I've been trying to like just piece together what I saw and try to like make my own things. But I'm gonna read that. I'll go deep into those.
I can't wait for somebody to edit this movie linearly, like to re-edit it in time as things are happening.
Right? Yeah, it's coming. It's absolutely coming. Let's talk about that. So the third act, the main thing, and
God.
this is me also trying to get clarity. The main thing that's going on, they're trying to stop the villain from getting the algorithm in the past,
the ninth Horcrux,
where he finds the first one,
Ninth Horcrux.
so he can't like use it to end like all of reality, because he's dying anyway, and he's just trying to end everything.
Right. If he gets the ninth piece of the algorithm, and then he goes down into that little bunker area, and they blow the bombs, and whatever blows the bombs also sets off the algorithm, and it gets to a saturation point where enough of the world will be running backwards that the world will collapse.
Okay, right.
And he's set it to go off right when he dies, because if he can't live, no one else can
Right.
live.
So they sent in 2 teams, and they did that. What do they call it? What kind of pincer move? Tempora?
The pincer, yeah.
Anyway.
temporal and princess.
So they have a team going in reverse, and they have a team going forward. And there's this fantastic action scene as well where you don't... It happens a few times throughout the movie, but I think this is when it's executed the best, is when the protagonist and Aaron Taylor Johnson's character run into the bunker, and they trip a bomb, and right behind them is this Humvee that's trying to beep, like you can tell it's trying to warn them, and they just sprint in there, and you come to find out that that's Neil's character. And then there's this whole reverse thing where he goes back into the turnstile, and he comes out, and he goes and ends up saving the day. And then there's this amazing scene that Dallas you touched on, where he basically like the protagonist knows this is the last time he's going to see him, but not really, or however you want that to decide how that works. But like they've been friends for a long time, and he wouldn't know that because he's coming from the past, and he's Rob Pattinson's from the future or whatever. I don't know, but did you guys that final act? Did it really did it stick the landing? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, there were so many times during that final battle, the pincer movement, that I literally spoke out loud in the theater, "This is so fucking cool." I literally said that out loud at least 3 times. I think the concept of one team going through it and experiencing it in time, coming out the other end, telling the other team, "Listen, at 4 minutes in, there's a team here waiting to ambush you. At 10 minutes in, this is going to happen." And then the other team uses that info to go back in time, and then they just fucking knowing ahead of time what's going to happen, so that you get to moments where, like, when both clocks hit 5 minutes and one team shoots a rocket at the bottom of the building, and the other team shoots it at the top of the building, and just kind of switches the destruction midway as the distraction for them to go into the cave. That kind of shit is like, I don't know what kind of fucking drugs Christopher Nolan was on whenever he was making.
You're not kidding. That's crazy, right? How do you come up with something like that?
But it's fantastic.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I also think it was really well done, because in the whole movie, the only way you can really know and understand who's going forward and who's going backward is by who's wearing the oxygen mask. Because you have to have your own oxygen if you're going backwards, because oxygen doesn't come into the lungs if it's not the same
Entropy.
But in that one, they got away with it because they had the blue troops and the red troops. So it was easy kind of to follow, but they were also switching back and forth between whose point of view you were looking at. So whether it was Robert Pattinson's point of view on the reverse team, and then the red people were walking backwards, or whether it was John David Washington and the red team. And so being able to, like, see them and see who's moving backwards to figure out, all right, what timeline am I following right now? Right. Are they moving towards the objective, or are they coming away from it? Yeah. And seeing, like, one group running towards the helicopter while the other's, like, running back away from it at the same time, backwards. That scene was so, like, you talk about the planning and the choreography. Yeah. I'm sure that took months to choreograph all of that with storyboards and all that shit to make sure it all came out right. And it was brilliantly executed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What was Robert Pattinson's, one of the last things he says to the protagonist was very powerful to me. And I don't remember the quote exactly, but he was talking about the grandfather paradox. And he said that, what's done is done, or what's happened has happened.
What's happened.
And he explained, like, that's not, like, you interpret that one way because of how many times we've seen time travel movies. And he says it another time in the movie, and you just take it how it's normally meant. You can't, it's free will. You can't change, or whatever. You can't change the past, or you can't change the future. What's happened has happened. It's going to happen. And he said it's not meant to be taken as, like, a lazy, like, thing. He's like, right? Do any of you guys remember what the exact quote was? He's like, it's not meant to be
like, I don't know the exact quote, but I think he was basically saying is that you now have, he's referring to the protagonist having to go back and kind of set up the temporal pincer movement. He's saying, like, you basically have to play this out now. Yeah. Because if you don't have this play out, then what happened didn't happen. So in order for what happened to happen, you have to now go back.
Right.
And make sure it happens.
Saying it's like,
that's kind of how I took it, at least.
Right. It's not going to happen just because it happened one time or whatever. It's like you still have to do it.
Still has to happen.
Yeah. I thought that was awesome. I thought that was super. That whole last, like, interaction between them was super powerful and super well written, and
and nailed by Pattinson.
Yeah, he was
the
awesome.
Guy's such a good actor.
Pattinson was so awesome, man.
One thing I did see was that last minute, the 10-minute, where there's 10 on one side and 10 on the other side. I guess that's where they get the Tenet from. So it's like TEN and the TEN and meets in the middle, Tenet.
I did not get that. That's cool.
Yeah,
got it now.
I guess that was something that I saw too, which was pretty impressive. Fucking Nolan thinking crazy shit all the time, man.
Yeah, I don't know where he began.
Hashtag watch Inception.
Man.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll stop. I'm being really obnoxious about that. I'll stop.
Holden will babysit for you.
I really enjoyed that last.
I did not make that promise.
That last act. That last act was great. The action was top notch. It was suspenseful. It was confusing, especially when they get into the cage there, where the guy's on the other side. I couldn't really tell what he was trying to do. But I guess what he was trying to do was he was putting the gold in the thing to send down. I'm not 100% sure what he was doing. At first, I thought he was trying to put. I thought what I said after the movie to you guys was I thought he was doing the thing that the villain got at the beginning of the movie when he was in his when he found the first thing when he was digging for stuff.
It was the
That's
same
what I
capsule, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
so that
I thought
that
it
would
was-
have been it, right? That would have been the capsule that he finds, right?
Right.
When
But
he's,
apparently in that capsule, it was just gold bars and instructions of what to do. So apparently that's where he got the memo from the future to begin collecting these algorithms to stop the process of destroying the world.
it's crazy. What a
So I don't know if that's like when it took place in reality for them. You know, like the guy was actually putting those first instructions in. Like that's what mind fucks me. 'Cause
Well, no,
when it all started, is that the future part? Is there going to be like a sequel to this movie where that was Tenet, and whatever movie comes next is going to be like from
11
that point forward, but backwards to that.
Everybody gets one extra minute on both sides.
Yeah, right.
So-
It's the 11th minute.
I was confused then. I thought what was inside the capsule was the
It
algorithm.
was.
I thought
it was.
so too, but no, because he's putting gold bars
Because that's
in
how
there.
they get it. That's how they have it in
Yeah.
their hands at the end. In that
No,
last scene.
I think Dallas. I think
No,
what
so they-
happened. What happened is I think that originally there was a time where that sequence was him sending the instructions and the gold back in time to because he didn't have it at that time or however.
Right.
And now this time around, he's doing it again, but this time that person, him in the past, is going to find the algorithm, right?
No,
so I
honestly,
think-
what I think was happening was he was putting the gold and the instructions in there, and they were blowing up the algorithm with the bomb right in that area.
Yeah.
So he wasn't putting the algorithm in the
So it's
in
the
capsule.
grandfather-
He was putting the gold and the instructions in the capsule. Then they were going to blow it up on itself. That's where, in the past, he's digging through the rubble and he finds that capsule with the gold in it.
Okay.
But
It's the grandfather paradox. Isn't he sending it back so that he can send off the Chad's seems very sure here.
No,
Chad,
here's what it
yeah,
is.
go.
Here's what it is. What they're doing, the woman at the end, way in the future, that wants to stop destroying the world. Everyone else wants to put the algorithm together and destroy the world and destroy the past. She says no, it's too much power. We can't do it. Splits it into 9 pieces, sends it back in time.
right,
They now, in the current timeline we're looking at, they're reassembling
Yes.
it
Right.
for the people who are against the woman in the future who want to do this.
Right.
And they are putting it in this hole in the middle of nowhere, collapsing the cave on it so that it's hidden for all time, so that they can then find it again in the future and use it to destroy the world.
Okay.
is that what
Yeah,
they're doing?
so
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't
Or
know
they're
if they were
burying it so
successful
that
in
it
dropping it down
eventually-
there and exploding it and burying it, then it would be hidden. That's why they had to extract it before. it
But
was
Kenneth
buried.
Branagh wants to destroy the world right now. That's why it's attached to him. So he's
Right.
circumventing
but the
that
people in
plan.
the future can do that at any time, I guess.
But Kenneth Branagh's plan is different than that because he wants to do it now because he
Now.
wants the world to end on his terms. So I think he was trying to create a grandfather paradox. If that was going back if the gold bars are going back in time to have the instructions, right? So that he can get those instructions to know what to do. But
Do it again.
if the time inverse happens before they can send those back, then it's a contradiction. And that causes the grandfather paradox, which would destroy everything. That's
Right.
what I took out of it.
I'm leaning more towards what Holden's thinking.
I don't know. I don't know.
That's what's great about this movie. I think.
So
Does the top fall over? We'll never know.
while that's happening, there's a really cool. Another scene I thought was cool was when Kat is supposed to be essentially she's there on the yacht, pretending to be the actual the cat that's supposed to be there at that time, but she's not. And she pulls the trigger a little early, literally and figuratively, and she kills her husband with the gun. And she had that premeditated because she had the lines from the railing all done. When it was a
Put the sunscreen
yeah,
on the.
Yeah,
it was a
slide
laugh
right
out
over.
loud. I mean, I was like, "Oh shit!" When she pushes him off the deck and his
He hits
head
the
just
side of the
his
deck.
neck just snaps on the. Oh, I was
Yeah.
like, oh
That
god,
was brutal.
man, that was rough.
And no special effects. They made Kevin Branagh do that.
That was not a VSX.
Have you seen
Yeah.
him doing the press tour? He's in a wheelchair. Very dedicated to his work. Not only was he speaking in reverse Russian, but he also is now paralyzed.
He wasn't even speaking Russian. He speaks. That's another thing. That was the other thing I was going to say.
He's
He
Irish.
speaks. No, the language he speaks in the movie is fuck. Oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to remember it now. I can't remember, but Robert Pattinson's character also speaks it, and in the scene where he's got Kate hostage, he speaks it, and the villain speaks it, and Robert Pattinson doesn't understand it, and the protagonist asks him, like, I thought you speak, it's Estonian, I think? He's like, I thought you speak Estonian. And he's like, I do, but he's speaking it in reverse, so I don't understand it. So that's another reason why they were thinking he's Max, because he would know Estonian from being around his father or whatever. And then there was one other... Now, I just thought of another thing, too. That
Also, just on the note, though, I like that theory of Robert Pattinson being Max, because Max would hate his dad. His dad constantly kept him away from his mother. He clearly loved his mother. I don't know. I like that theory a lot. That's a good theory.
Oh, the other thing, too, was when you think the protagonist and Neil first meet, Neil asks him, he's like, would you ever take a child as a hostage? And he's like, no. He's like, would you ever take a woman as a hostage? And he's like, no. And, they're saying that he's asking that because he knows that, or he wants to just make sure that what he's going to do in the future is what he needs to do by always being able to protect or willing to protect him as Max and his mother as Kate. So he always knew that was going to happen too, I guess. Some crazy shit, man.
So let's get outside of the nitty gritty here. Let's do some unanswerable questions. I have a question, and this is what ruined the movie for Dallas. What happens when you're in the reverse and you gotta poop? Or I guess the better question is, what happens if you're in the reverse world, the upside down for lack of a better term, and you have already pooped? Do you have to then walk into the toilet and then the shit flies up into your ass?
It's uncomfortable.
Yes. So this is how they could have done that scene. So the scene where he catches the bullet, instead it's just he goes to the toilet. He goes to the bathroom. And there's already a turd in the toilet. She's like, sit down. He's like, I don't want to. Sit down.
Sit down.
And then she sits down and just, whoa, what was that? Why does it feel so weird? Well, because you caught the poop.
So that was a strange one.
Yeah, for about 5 minutes after you said that to me, I was thinking of everything. Pee, poo, throwing up, everything.
Vomit. God.
Oh, that'd be the worst. Pee and poo, there might be some satisfaction in that, because there's like
Swallow it.
pooping is satisfying. Because I can see like, oh, that like felt weird. Like I could like vomiting would be awful. Like reverse burning in the back of your throat. Like no, thank you. That's terrible.
Or even a sneeze would be like at that speed going back into your
Oh
body.
my God.
Be like snorting up just a bunch of shit in the air. Like, fuck. It's fucking great.
Tenet was wild stuff, man. I enjoyed it. I can't wait to see it a few more times. I don't know if I'm going to go. Maybe. I might see it in the theaters again, depending. But I definitely can't wait for it to come to home video. Like I'm going to watch it on VHS. I can't wait to come to streaming.
To go to major video and rent it.
Major video, dude.
Oh no, but then when you rewind it, it's a totally different movie.
Oh, man. Please be kind, rewind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
at one point
wait
I
to
said
see
out loud
what
to you guys, like, this shit's wild, dude.
Yeah.
This is fucking wild.
Yeah.
Is that
I don't know what else there is to do. Like Christopher Nolan's movies, like he's done Memento, where he kind of does it in spurts backwards. He's done Dunkirk, where he has it in 3 different timelines all converging. He's done Interstellar, where they do the wormhole and fold space and time on itself. He's done this. Like, how many different ways can you fucking break
That guy is
time?
insane.
and they're all
don't
truly
know.
original. Like they're not
Yeah.
they're not any of the same concepts. That's the craziest shit. I don't.
And then Inception, where you have like time getting different in different levels of dream state. Like, that guy's brain is fascinating to me. If there's one person that I want to have like a meal, like that famous person, dead or alive, that you want to have a meal with, it's like I want that, and then I want to cuff him to a chair, and then I want to cut his skull open and study his brain.
Yeah, but imagine you sit down with him and he starts talking in reverse, because that's the current. He's writing Tenet and he's like, oh, this is. But honestly, I don't even know. I don't know if talking to him would help. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
he's so confused. By everything that comes out of his mouth.
He was asked in an interview, like, do you know the answers to these questions that you kind of pose to your audience, or is it ambiguous to you as well? And he's like, no. Like, I need to have an answer so I know what are the right questions to pose to the audience, is how he puts it.
That's
Maybe
insane,
it's smoke and mirrors, but I believe him.
No,
I totally
believe it too.
him.
I would love to hear all those little, like, is Neil Max, what actually took place in that, what was the idea, was it the future or was it them? Like I would love to hear what the real answers to that.
Would he
Something
even
like-
answer those
The
questions?
VHS just for the. I can't wait to get the VHS for the commentary. Like to watch this with the commentary on it.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's nuts, and I'm sure that we're gonna get a lot of with the commentary. I'm sure we'll get a lot of insight with the stunts and a lot of how it was shot. I'm so fascinated that it was that few, VFX shots. That's in today's age where everything is a VFX shot. And where, like, the Mandalorian TV show is shot on a soundstage with a gigantic screen all around it.
Right.
Oh my God.
Right.
You have movies like this that come in and, like...
We're in the future.
Right. We are in the future. And Christopher
Just
Nolan...
crashing that Boeing 747 or whatever. I was like,
That was
this is
nuts!
fucking crazy,
Yeah!
man.
What a set piece.
This guy.
It wasn't that dramatic. It was just a little
plutonium.
dramatic.
Yeah.
Like, all those trucks on the highway like that, dude, just, it was fucking blowing my mind.
How about the cops that roll up on the highway and they're just, like, kind of like... There's a car crushed right there.
Like, looking around
in
like,
between
what's
there.
going on
Like,
over
what is
there?
going on here?
As a cop, I'd be like, I don't know if I could put my sirens on because something bigger is happening than me. I have no control over this.
That's like...
And there's a fire truck, so it has to be legit.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's like in the town when they pull out of the bank and they pull down the street and they're stopped at like a light and they all have the masks on and the cop like just looks the other way. He just turns his body and looks the other way. It's like you just gotta look the other way, man. That's bigger than what's going on with you. There's a man with poop flying up his butt. All right, that's that. I think that's it. I mean, I feel like we could just keep going down a rabbit hole, but if you watch this, I hope you saw Tenet already, and you kind of understand what
Brent.
we're talking about. Yeah, right, Brent. Don't be watching this. And so I hope you know what you're talking about. And then, I mean, all of us are going to see it again, and I'm sure there'll be more theories to come about. But that's what's great about movies like this. And bravo, Christopher Nolan. He's done it again. Yeah.
For sure.
Anything you guys want to close with?
Random thought. I want Nolan's next movie to be a James Bond movie because I would love to see what he can do with because this is kind of like a spy movie in a way. I would love to
I
see
think that's
him.
what he had said this was to him. Like this
Okay.
was his James Bond.
Did you say that? Okay, yeah.
He's very...
Still want him to work on James Bond. Still want to see that. That'd be insane.
Yeah, when
Just
I
with
was...
the soundtrack in a James Bond movie, that alone, I want it. Anyway, sorry.
He would need he would need Tom Cruise to be in his movie because Tom Cruise likes to do all his own stunts, and I think that would be something that he would be into. Because I know that I don't know what Daniel Craig does for stunts, but Tom Cruise does everything.
Tom Cruise can't do a British accent or any accents to save his life, though. He can be Tom Cruise, and there's
He doesn't-
nothing wrong with that. Tom Cruise is awesome
The first
in
Meet
movies,
007.
not Scientology.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, guys. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. This has been the
Thanks for
Average
having
Nobody's podcast. One more time. Let's go around. Just plug your stuff, and we'll get out of here.
I don't have any stuff to plug, so
Well, go check out his Twitter, at DSmittyGames. He puts up these fantastic photos from games. Virtual photographer of the stars.
in my Warzone dubs.
That's right, yes.
Although I haven't posted any
Yeah.
of those lately. So got nobody to play with anymore.
I'm from Respawn Aimfire, the occasional guest podcast of Dallas Smith. That's how we're going to start building it now. Follow us on Twitter. Go. Holden just did this really cool thing on Stadia. Go on YouTube. Watch all the new things we just
Yes,
Yeah.
the grind.
The grind.
And he marketed it to all the people who hate the video.
Who loves Stadia?
Well, I was curious for their feedback,
Hey,
and
guys,
they
this is why Stadia sucks to all the Stadia fans.
Yeah, you guys basically already said who I am, so that's me. I'm a
It's just
Stadia
a
hater,
monster,
I guess.
huh?
I'm not though. I'm not a Stadia hater. Actually, you'll see the next few episodes.
At least you provide
Spoilers.
facts for your Stadia hating. You know.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
just
We'll
facts.
talk about. I actually want to talk about it on the podcast and kind of what the journey looked like because I have been a Stadia hater, but I don't think things are changing a little bit. You'll see. You'll see.
Nice
You'll see.
teaser. That was perfect. Thanks for everybody for listening, watching. YouTube.com/TheAverageNobodies. Average Nobodies on all podcast services and AverageNobodies.com. We'll talk to you soon.